Hi boys and girls, welcome to your RE lesson for today. And I know what you're probably thinking, Miss Buckley, where is Mrs. Greaves? I'm going to be doing some RE with you today. I hope that that's okay. I'm very excited. It's one of my favourite subjects to talk about. And we're going to be learning about a very special story in the Bible today. And then you're going to be completing a little activity on it. Okay, I want you to think about what we already know about Jesus. Who did Jesus make friends with? Pause the video here and see if you can think of any people that Jesus made friends with. Well, here are some of the people whom Jesus made friends with. These are his disciples, and you've looked at Jesus's disciples with Mrs. Greaves before. So all of the people on the screen were Jesus's disciples. They were his friends. And in fact, Jesus not only made friends with the disciples, but Jesus made friends with everyone. He made time to speak to everyone, especially those who were considered by others as not worthy of being spoken to by anyone. So he especially made time for people who others wouldn't speak to. He made extra time for those people. Okay. In Jesus' time, children were not thought of with any high regard. That means that children actually weren't that important in Jesus' time, not like we are today. So when people brought their children to be blessed by Jesus, several adults would actually try to stop them. However, Jesus wouldn't let that happen, and he always told them to let the children come to him. I want you to just have a little think now. Who is your favourite grown-up beside your parents? Think of somebody who's not mum or dad. Who is your favourite grown-up? Pause the video and think about who your favourite grown-up beside your parents are. So not mum or dad. Who else is your favourite grown-up? Pause the video and I want you to think about why that person is your favourite grown-up. Okay, hopefully you've thought of someone who your favourite grown-up is. When I was growing up, my favourite grown-up was my granddad because he always had really interesting and funny and silly stories to tell me, and he always made me really happy. So maybe the person who you've chose as your favourite grown-up beside your parents, maybe they make you happy too. Now, when Jesus was on earth, he was actually many children's favourite grown-ups. So if I would have asked some of the children around the time of Jesus who their favourite grown-up was beside their parents, they probably would have said Jesus. Let's find out why this was the case. Now, the message that we're going to be looking at in today's lesson is that Jesus loves us and he wants us in his family. I'm going to tell you a story, and I need you to have your super listening ears on because the activity that Mrs. Greaves wants you to do today is all about this story. So if you've not had them switched on already, switch on those super listening ears and let's listen to a story. One day, a little boy's mother heard that Jesus was in her town, but she didn't know where he was. And there's the mother on the screen. So she went and asked her neighbour, and she said, I heard that Jesus is in town. Do you know where he is? I want him to pray for my little boy. And the neighbour said, Jesus is here. I'll come with you to find him. So the neighbour picked up her little girl, and the two mothers walked quickly into town. Another mother saw them, and she said, Where are you going? We're going to find Jesus, the first mother said. Come with us. And so she did. She called her 2 children and she said, "Come, children, we're going to see Jesus." As mothers and their children hurried toward town, they saw more mothers with their children. "They must know where Jesus is," the first mother said. "Let's follow them." So they did. You can see the 3 mothers on the screen here with their children, and they've spotted all of the other mothers going into town with their children, and so they decide to follow them. Finally, they saw Jesus sitting under a tree. He was talking to some grown-ups, and Jesus' helpers were standing nearby. And you can see, here are Jesus' helpers, his disciples. They frowned at all the mothers and children, and one of the mothers walked right up to the frowning men and said, "Excuse me, we would like to ask Jesus to pray for our children." One of the men frowned even harder. "Jesus is busy. Come back later," he answered. I wonder why the disciples wouldn't let Jesus see the children. Think about what I told you about children in Jesus' time at the beginning. Why didn't the disciples want to let the children see Jesus? It probably had something to do with the fact that children were not that important during Jesus' time. The mothers and the children were sad. They turned around and started to walk back home. But then Jesus stood up and spoke to the frowning men. "Let the little children come to me. Don't stop them. They belong in my kingdom. They are part of my family." Jesus opened his arms and a little girl ran to him. He picked her up and hugged her. How would you feel if you met Jesus? What would you say to him? Pause the video if you want to discuss with your grown-up at home. How would you feel if you met Jesus, and what would you say to him? Pause the video. Soon, all of the children ran to Jesus. What do you think Jesus did next? Well, Jesus let the children climb onto his lap. He let them touch his hands and his face, and he even let them gently pull his beard. He let them give him hugs, and Jesus smiled at the children. He hugged them back. He even played peekaboo with the babies. He held each child in his arms and prayed for each one. The mothers and the children were so happy that Jesus loved all their children and welcomed them into his family. Because, boys and girls, Jesus loves us and he wants us in his family too. Now, what Mrs. Greaves would like you to do in today's activity is this. This is the worksheet that Mrs. Greaves has set for you. There are there's 3 pictures and space for 1 more, and there are some lines next to the picture. Mrs. Greaves would like you to write some sentences to describe what is happening in each picture. So in the first picture, she would like you to write some sentences to explain what's happening here. So the mother heard that Jesus was coming to town, so she asked her neighbour where he was. The neighbour didn't know, but they decided to go and find him. Then in the next picture, they met more mothers and more children and continued to look for Jesus. When they found Jesus, the mother asked the disciples if Jesus could meet her children to pray for them, and he told them to come back later. And then the final one here, picture number 4, well, that's going to be of Jesus welcoming the children, isn't it? It's going to be the part where Jesus said, "Come to me, let the children come to me. I love them, they are part of my family." And then Mrs. Greaves wants you to think about this final point at the bottom, and it says, "This story tells us." What does this story actually teach us? Now, the great thing about this being a video is that you can go back and listen to the story again. You could look at the picture that's on the screen and then listen to me telling you the story, and you could write down your sentence. Now, I'm so excited to see your RE work come into me, and I'm going to be sending some to Mrs. Greaves to show her how hard that you've been working, and I'm sure she will choose some of the best. Okay. Enjoy this activity, boys and girls, and remember, if you're struggling or you're a bit unsure, you can go back, you can rewind this video, and you can listen to the story again. You could maybe even listen to the story more than once. You could maybe listen to it twice or 3 times and try and act it out with someone at home. I would love to see some of that. Enjoy, boys and girls, and we'll see you very soon.